Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. Today, while on a tour of South Kuresoi constituency in Nakuru County, the President William Ruto made some remarks in regards to who has been sponsoring the protests that we've been witnessing in this country. And in a very unprecedented announcement, the President did say today that it is a group of an NGO known as Ford from the United States of America that has been sponsoring the protests against his government. This came as a shocker to me, and I know it will also shock you, or has already shocked you as a viewer of this channel. Because if at all an NGO organization allowed and registered to operate in Kenya has been sponsoring a wave of protests in this country, then that means that it is contrary to what they signed as per when they were entering the market spaces of Kenya. And so, by a matter of fact, that NGO should have been non-existent. Just a humble call or an update on some of our followers have been, of course, asking on the presence of Kevin. And it is indeed true that he took some time off because he was involved in an accident almost over the weekend, I think. So yeah, if I'm not wrong, as he was traveling home together with his family in his car, got an accident somewhere around Nakuru, past Nakuru, where his car overturned, and he was lucky enough to escape, but with minor injuries. Of course, the doctors have confirmed that he's in a stable condition and that he'll be able to join us sometimes within this week or next week. So maybe just as a humble call or as a humble request, you know, he's been one of us. He's been supporting so many charitable causes, and he's part and parcel of us. He's a family. So maybe if you have prayers or you have messages that you want to send to him, maybe financial support, emotional support, any kind of support that you'd like to extend to him, I've attached the pictures from the scene and also his mobile phone number that you can get in touch with him. But before we go further, listen to the speech of the president today making the accusations.
Because there is a court that does not respect the rights of other people. We must make sure that whatever court it is, we believe in the rule of law, but we must make sure that our citizens do not suffer from innocent acts of people who do not mean well for other Kenyans. Kwa hivyo tutashirikiana namna hiyo, na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba tunatengeneza team. Si mnajua kuna kazi nimefanya hapo. Sasa mimi na kuanzia next week nitaanza kupanga hiyo serikali nyingine. Namna hiyo? Nyinyi mko tayari tupange hiyo serikali nyingine? Nipange hiyo serikali nyingine. Na nilikuwa Nakuru. Leo asubuhi nilikuwa Nakuru. Watu wa Nakuru wakasema hatutaki fujo, hatutaki vita, hatutaki wale wanaharibu mali. Watu wa Nakuru waliniambia we want peace. Nyinyi watu wa Kuresoi mnasema nini? One peace. Hebu nisikie watu wa Kuresoi mnasemaje? Ati mnasemaje? Mnasema we want peace. Hebu kila mtu aseme we want peace. Mnasemaje? Ati mnasemaje? Erudia tena. We want peace in Kenya. We have no use for anarchy and violence and destruction of property and loss of life. Wale ambao wanasponsor hiyo violence, sisi tunawajua. And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them, because they are sponsoring violence against our democratic nation. Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation, watuambie hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani? We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave. Tunaelewana jameni ama tuelewani? Mnataka watu watununulie vijana ati wafanye fujo katika Kenya? Vijana sio wa kufanya fujo, vijana ni wa kufanya kazi, na hiyo ndio mpango tuko naye ya kupanga ajira ya hawa vijana. Wakati tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa affordable housing, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa hii markets, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa digital jobs, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa mambo ya export of labor, tunapanga ajira ya hawa vijana kwa mambo ya manufacturing na mambo ya value addition na mambo ya industrialization. Kuna watu hawataki tupange vijana wafanye kazi, wanataka kupanga vijana wafanye fujo. We want to tell them we are a democratic nation, and the young people of Kenya, they are not available to conduct violence. They are not available to have anarchy in our country. We do not have a spare nation. We have only one Kenya. Tuko na nchi nyingine tunaweza kwenda sisi? Mnasema tukae Kenya? Vijana wa Kenya mnasema tutaweka amani? Vijana wa Kenya mnasema tutaweka amani? Hebu nisikie tena, mnasema we want peace. Kuresoi mnasemaje? Kuresoi mnasemaje? Na Nakuru? Na Kenya? Yes, we want peace. Sijui kama tunaelewana. Tuko pamoja? Na saa hiyo mimi napanga hii maneno ya Kenya, mimi nimesema I am ready, I am willing, I am available to consult.
That is the president. But just a straight cut before we go into this even, if at all it is Ford which was rather sponsoring these protests that we witnessed in Kenya, then there are some questions that we would like to ask, maybe, or a common man is asking, maybe, to get a better understanding of how best this Ford NGO group funded the protests in Kenya. So, if it is to say so, why did we have to drop the Finance Bill 2024 in the first place, if at all it was Ford that was sponsoring the protests instead of dealing with Ford as a registered NGO? Because, truth be said, that finance bill that was dropped had an impact on our taxes. It had an impact on the way that we are going to financially run this country for the next one financial year. The amount of money that was spent, for example, in moving around the country, collecting the views of the citizens on what they think of the finance bill itself, was an exercise that took money. So if it is at all that the protests against the finance bill was as a result of this Ford NGO group, then the only way to be accountable to the citizens, the only way to be answerable to the citizens is have this Ford, the directors who are in Kenya, arrested or even maybe their accounts frozen. And if their accounts are not frozen, then the beneficiaries of this Ford aid or grant should also have their accounts frozen. I've seen bloggers buy allied to the government, trying to run the blogs, trying to mention some of the organizations that received grants from Ford. I've seen something like African Uncensored Group being mentioned, which is a media group in Kenya. I've seen also, I remember seeing a majority of civil groups, even the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, being mentioned to having received money from Ford. So, why haven't we frozen the accounts of the receivers of the aid of the people who are purported to have received money from Ford? Then, if at all it was Ford that was sponsoring the demonstrations, why did the government have to respond, or some sections of the police or the security agencies in this country have to respond by doing extrajudicial killings, illegal abductions, maimings, and use of excessive force against these people who are on the streets? Why didn't we have them charged or arrested and charged before a court of law for conspiracies to even defraud the government, for example? Those are some of the tough questions that, when making this announcement, the president could have already exhausted mechanisms in place to address some of these challenges. So, the other question that I know we should ask, or that Ruto should be answering, is that if at all this Ford was sponsoring these demonstrations, then what did the Ford Foundation have to do with the opulence and incompetency that we have witnessed among some, for example, the UDA or the Kenya Kwanza regime elected leaders. And this opulence even extends across even to some of the opposition elected leaders. What relations did it have with even his action, for example, to dismiss or disband his cabinet, if it indeed was a pressure from the fold? Today, I've seen taxi operators, the Uber guys, the Bolt guys, the Faras guys, all those operators in town protesting against what they term as an unfair work environment against them.
Anguka nayo kama kuna new cut, anguka nayo kuna pati na makosa, anguka nayo na mtuko wa hii bus, anguka nayo ati, anguka nayo ati, anguka nayo, anguka nayo.
After that, then, has the government made any contact with the government of US, either through writing, through a statement, requiring the USA, for example, to provide them with the information on the operations of Ford on the American soil, or even on the Kenyan soil? Are there written statements? Are there statements that are made such that we can know on the activities that Ford does on American soil that would otherwise have proven as a security threat, because that is a potential security threat to our country if at all Ford is doing that? If at all they are involved in that, then that information should be now out by them. You know, whatever we are trying to see is that Ruto himself did an injustice to himself when he openly shifted the foreign policy of this country towards the US so much. Kenya for years has been neutral on its foreign and diplomatic relations with other countries. But for the first time in the history of the country, we saw an open diplomatic relation that was openly directed to the US. And so many people were afraid, and people have said it before, that they've seemed to see Ruto as somebody who is more of working as a puppet to the US government instead of maintaining the neutrality of the state of Kenya. So that is where maybe the rain started beating the president. So the candid advice to the president right now, or the action that Ruto's government can take right now, is to be accountable to the citizens of Kenya, maintain transparency, address issues and instances of corruption, unemployment, high cost of living. In as much as he is saying that his government has tried that, then let him try to a level that is content with the citizens. Those are the issues that people are raising, that the Gen Zs on the streets are raising. People are going through formal education, and upon completion of education, they can't find employment opportunity, whether in the informal or formal sector. Those are the issues that are ailing this country. Those are the issues that are disturbing this country. The issues of tribalism, nepotism, the issues of having to be favored in order to get chances within even employment sectors in this country. Those are the very issues that are ailing this country that we have to look into as a nation and not mere blame games. So that issue or that perspective of Ruto trying to mention the name of an NGO company that is from America that have been sponsoring, that it has been sponsoring the protests and the restlessness that we've been witnessing in this country just clearly points to some other things that, you know, he could be running away from the issues that the Gen Zs raised. Why is he open to dialogue with the Gen Zs if at all there are people who are being sponsored by other people? Why did he have to go on a Twitter space with them? Why is he calling for multi-sectoral dialogue? Even with other people, even from like the opposition, other professional working bodies in this country. If at all these are just mere shenanigans of being sponsored by other people. Why doesn't he want to go after the Ford on the knock and stop this blame game? So this is kind of scapegoatism. While issues such as incompetence and open opulence that have been portrayed by some leaders in this government cannot be addressed on the head. So it might also be interpreted to him trying to seek sympathy from the people or from the electorate. And you see, just look at the nature of his tours. I don't want to say that they've been so much around the mountain, but that is the truth. And he tried it yesterday in church. He's tried it today too, trying to appear like the vindicated, like the victimized person here, such that he can be able to get that public sympathy. In Kajiado, when he was speaking, he said that there were some foreigners who had infiltrated the protests. Then, as a president, maybe he didn't have to wait up to until today. That is a statement that should not even have come from him. Maybe. On to what scales does it put our country's diplomatic relations with even America, where this NGOs comes from? Because I've seen some picture going online. I hope I'll be able to share it with you, of him with the CEO of the Ford NGO group. That is, sometimes back this picture was taken. I don't know where this picture was taken, but that is him with the CEO of this Ford NGO that he claims is currently wreaking havoc in Kenya. Anyway, it is interesting. It is interesting. So these ones can just be interpreted to him also trying to pull his pre-election stunts and gimmicks towards the electorates of this country with these Ford claims. Then, we've said whatever he needs to do, fulfill the promises and that he made to the electorates in the run-ups to the 2022 general elections and address the issues of balanced mismanagement of resources. These are the very issues that he should address, not these mere blame games that he's trying to pull. And maybe the question, the last question that maybe we should ask Ruto or the president is, why did he have to dismiss the cabinet and claim to have listened to the people in his actions of dismissing the cabinet if at all the problems that are being caused to this country are being caused by this Ford animal? Because we all remember, sometimes back, he also claimed, this government claimed, that process that was being witnessed in this country before was sponsored by Russia. Indeed. These are issues that I don't think if people will buy them. I don't think so. Maybe some will buy them, but for a majority, especially the informed population, they will not buy them. That marks the end of our analysis. Thank you for watching.